there's all this pressure, And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
Yeah, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. All of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way.
How many of you can relate to that? Huh? Oh, yeah. That's right. Hand claps. That's all you needed. Let's pray. We're going to go. All right? It's not about the nail. Communication is complicated, isn't it? And I don't care how many times I've seen that video, I still laugh every single time. Words are powerful, and yes, words are painful, and what you may not realize is words are deeply spiritual. I know you know this, but your words matter. And if you're like me, you don't always get your words right. Sometimes you say the right thing the wrong way. You know what this is called? Parenting toddlers. When you walk into the room and they're doing no, and all they hear is your tone. Why are you yelling at me? Sometimes we say the right thing at the wrong time. This is called parenting teenagers, because I have a few of them, and it doesn't matter what I say, I don't get anything right at any of the right times. Sometimes you say one thing, but they hear something different. This is called work. You get that email, or you hear your boss say, I need you to make a few changes, and what you hear is, you should probably start looking for employment elsewhere immediately. You're like, or it happens in our text messages when you're trying to be funny, and you find out a few days later they were so offended at your reply, right? Then there are times when we say nothing and we should, or we say something and we shouldn't have. This is called marriage. Where it doesn't matter. It depends on the day. And some of you experienced this very principle today, maybe even on your way here. If you can relate, I am so glad that you are here today joining us, whatever campus you are at. Those of you watching on TV, those of you that braved the snow. Over the next few weeks, we are going to be looking at the words that we use and how you use them, because whether you like it or not, the Bible is clear. The tongue can bring death or life. And those who love to talk will reap the what? Yeah, that's right, the consequences. Your words matter. And I know you know this, but the more words you use, the more consequences you face. And so if you use your words in a life-giving way, you're going to experience some good consequences coming back to you. If you don't use your words in a life-giving way, then the consequences aren't going to be very life-giving to you. And so to help bring this verse home, I think it's helpful to understand that the average person says 16,000 words per day. Now, some of you are like, that's not me. Others of you are way above average, okay? Way more than 16,000. But if this is the average, that means you say 5.8 million words per year, which is such a big number, it's hard to wrap our mind around. But if you put it this way, an average book contains around 90,000 words, so you are speaking about 60 plus books per year. That's 112,000 words per week, which is 112,000 opportunities to speak life or to speak death. That's a lot of consequence potential. And here's the thing. You know that your words matter. I do. And we know that we don't always get it right. And so we could say, well, I'm not perfect. And that's true. But when we start thinking about the weight of our words and how we use our words, it matters. It matters in your family. It matters at work. It matters in your faith. It matters with your friendships. It matters at church. It matters for your future employment. It matters in those relationships that you're close to, and it actually matters a lot to God. And I don't know if you've ever really thought about why your words, like why would God care? Part of it is because the word is an important way God chose to reveal himself to us. One of Jesus' disciples said, in the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Like of all of the ways that God could have chosen to identify himself, one of the key ways that he chose to identify himself is the Word. And this is in part why Jesus came, to bring literal words, to communicate with us how we can approach God, to show us through his words, to teach us what life with God was really like. John goes on to describe the Word this way. The Word gave life to everything that was created. His life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. Words matter to God because they reflect his very nature. And so, yes, he cares about our words, our tone, their impact, because he knows they impact the people around us. He knows that our words have the potential to reflect his nature and his light through us to people around us. And so, yes, your words matter deeply to God. They also matter to God because your words reveal what's going on within you. Jesus taught it this way in the Sermon on the Mount. He says, a good person produces things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. What you say, the words you use, flows from what is in your heart. Your words, they may matter more than you actually realize. Your words reveal the health, the spiritual temperature of your heart. When your heart is healthy, you tend to give helpful words. And when your heart isn't quite right, your words aren't quite right either. This is why Jesus taught. He says, I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. For every, you can put the word careless in here, empty word, harmful word you speak. And that's intense, isn't it? I mean, this doesn't mean that your words are what send you to heaven or send you to hell. No, what Jesus is reminding us is that your words reveal your heart, and it will reveal what is most true of you on Judgment Day. He's reminding us that your words matter, that you and I, we choose the words that we use. And so we need to pay attention to that choice. You want to know the state of your spiritual maturity and your spiritual health? Pay attention to the words that you use. Because one of the best ways to grow in living out the greatest commandments that Jesus taught, loving God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself, one of the greatest ways to grow in that is to spend a little time evaluating the words that you use or don't use with the people around you. That's why I'm excited to bring this series back. We ran it about 4 years ago, right out of COVID, and there are a lot of new people, and we found that the content that we have refreshed is super helpful for all of your relationships. And I think it's going to be impactful, whatever season of life, whatever stage of life that you find yourself in. And one of the things that we're going to do each week is we are going to be coming back to one passage. There will be others that we talk about, but there is one passage that really captures, that we want to anchor the truths in over the next few weeks. It's Ephesians 4:29. And in a moment, I'm going to invite you all to say it out loud. My hope is that you would memorize it. And so if you're at White House, I know you're going to have to dig deep for us. West Toledo, you're going to show us the way through. But wherever you're at, wherever you're watching, those of you here at Perrysburg, let's say this out loud together. Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Typically, When we hear this verse, or when this verse is used on people, it is used in reference to curse words. Like when you say a 4-letter word, a swear word. How many of you were young, when you were young, were given a bar of soap because you had some unwholesome talk? Yeah, a few of you. What did it taste like? Yeah, it tastes like a curse word is what you wanted to say. Tasted terrible, right? My wife and I, over our 20 plus years that we've been married, we've moved a few times. And it's always fascinating to me. When we would move to a new neighborhood or a new house, you meet the neighbors. And, you find out real quick if they attend Cedar Creek or not. And most of the time, they don't know what I do. So we're just a couple dudes chatting it up in the front yard, talking about all the things with all sorts of colorful language. And then they find out where I work, and the same response. Shoot. Sorry about the language. It's like sometimes they don't even say shoot. But they're just caught. It's like they're caught, as if that's the only thing that I really care about. I don't. But when we look at this verse, that's what we think it's communicating. That's not what this verse is talking about. This verse is not just like, hey, don't use curse words. No, this verse is communicating so much more than that. And when we limit this verse to just swear words, we degrade the significance of what Paul is talking about. He's addressing all of our words, our tone, our intent as a reflection of our heart. Take this word, unwholesome. That's usually the one that we refer to, like, it's talking about swear words. In the original language, this word means bad, rotten, like rotten food, useless. It implies bad intent. It's when your heart motive is off, not just 4-letter words, right? And when our hearts are selfish or insecure or proud or bitter or jealous, words can spew out of us that are rotten and unhelpful and useless. They are unhealthful is a word that I would use. They're coming from an unhealthy place. In fact, you might react to someone and not say a single curse word and still violate this passage. I mean, think about that. An obvious example of this is gossip. Isn't it fun to find a friend and spread some juicy details about somebody else that really you overheard, or a problem that they shared with you that you just feel, yes, but that's unwholesome. If you're talking about someone else's problem or a problem that you have with someone else, and you're sharing that with someone who can't help you solve that problem, that's unwholesome. It's not helping anybody. It feels fun in the moment, but it's not honoring God, and it's not honoring your relationships. That's an obvious example. A less obvious example is sarcasm. Now, here's the thing. Sarcasm is my love language. I love it when we can have a little bit of sarcastic fun. So not all sarcasm is bad, but sometimes, and maybe you're better at this than I am, sometimes I'm sarcastic in a way where I'm kind of mean what I say, and I'm laughing it off at the end. Like I want it to jab a little bit. That's unwholesome. That's unhelpful. That means there's something going on inside of me. Here's another way that Christians will use their words in an unwholesome way. It's when they stand up for the truth in a way that tears down or diminishes someone else. Like standing up for the truth is great, but not at someone else's expense. That's wrong. That's unwholesome. That's an indication that there's something off in our heart. We need to pay attention to that. Another word that's important to note here is the word helpful. Helpful for building others up. Our words should build others up. It should give life. Now, let me be clear. That doesn't mean we should never provide boundaries. We should. There are certain situations where you got to put some firm boundaries in your relationships, and sometimes that doesn't feel helpful to the person taking advantage of you. I'm not talking about that. But for the most part, our words should be helpful. They should give life. The truth is, boundaries can give life. But we also need to pay attention to our tone and our timing and the texts that we send. Like as we grow in our relationship with God, He's going to transform how we think about the words that we choose to use. He wants us to choose words that are, here's the way that I put it as the bottom line, choose words that are helpful and healthful. If we choose words that are healthful, not rotten, not coming from an unhealthy, angry, bitter, resentful, reactive place, we need to think about that. We also need to think about choosing words that are helpful, that are useful, that build others up. One is about external impact. The other is about internal motivation. And here's why this is so important. In your daily life and mine, in the relationships that we have, at home, at work, in our neighborhood, online, we have to navigate all sorts of positive and negative experiences. It is a part of what it means to be human. Life just isn't perfect. And psychologist and best-selling author John Gottman, he has identified a magic ratio that helps our key relationships at work, at home, our marriages thrive. He calls it the magic ratio, where we need 5 positive interactions for every negative interaction. That helps build a stable and happy relationship. If you have less than 5 positive experiences or interactions for every negative, it starts to bring strife to your relationships. This is based on research with hundreds of couples. But what's challenging with that is, we read that and we're like, okay, we need 5 positive experiences. So think about what that looks like in your life. 5, what good words, good interactions, choosing your words wisely. What's significant for us to remember is the weight of 5 positive interactions with 1 negative one. This is why we need to choose words that are healthful and helpful. If we can minimize some of the withdrawals that negative experiences make and be more intentional with the positive, helpful, life-giving experiences, imagine what that would do for your kids, with your siblings, in your marriage, at your workplace. I mean, the impact of those negative experiences is significant. That's why we need to choose words that are both helpful and healthful, that are not coming from a broken, angry, bitter place. And so here's what happens. Sometimes at this point, when people hear this sort of content, they're like, okay, yeah. We need to be more positive. And that is partially true, but it is not completely true. This isn't just say more positive things. Because, have you ever tried to compliment someone and your compliment actually made it worse or didn't help? Or is it just me? Apparently, it's just me. My assistant has been my assistant for about 10 years. She just recently retired. She helped serve our founding pastor before me. She's been a key part of our staff for a long time. Well, a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, she had a hair appointment in the middle of the day. And when she came back, I had been working. I came out of my office, and I didn't recognize her because normally her hair is curly and done up a little bit. And when she came back, her hair was straight, and I thought it looked nice. I was like, I about said, your hair looks great. But then I thought to myself, what if she doesn't like her hair? Like, this isn't, it could get a little weird. And what I blurted out in the moment of crisis, trying to compliment her, I said, what did you do? Don't do that, okay? Now you know why she's retired. It's hostile work environment, it's like not right. So yes, we can intend to give helpful words from a healthy place, and what you miss in this verse is according to their needs. Isn't it true? Words that are helpful for you don't help some of the people around you, your spouse, a sibling, a friend. Like, as a parent, what motivates one child can completely discourage another. Words that seem to roll off of other people can totally rattle us. It could be words from a coach, an employer, a coworker, words online, something you experience at school, words from a family member. See, we speak in ways that can make sense to us, but may be misunderstood by others, or may even unintentionally offend others. It can start with a simple question. Hey, what time are we leaving? And pretty soon, you find yourself in this argument, like this debate. I call it the crazy cycle, where a simple question delivered in maybe an unhelpful or unhelpful way causes the other person to react. And so they react back with some unhelpful words, which causes you to react. And pretty soon, around the mulberry bush you go. It starts with something small. And pretty soon, you're debating about why you never, and she always, and why can't you, and how did we get here? You know, it's like, what were we talking about? What time are we going to leave? That's right. You always are nitpicking when does this sound like it's just me, or is it just you too, okay? It's like this crazy cycle, and you don't stop until either both of you are exhausted or somebody reluctantly apologizes, and you think to yourself, I never want to get back here again, and 2 weeks later, you're back in the crazy cycle over something stupid. But sometimes that something small escalates, and then damage is done. And it becomes like a barrier of bitterness, an obstacle of unforgiveness. The question is like, whose fault is it? I mean, our tendency is to be like, well, if they didn't, let's be clear. Sometimes it is their fault. Sometimes, though, it's yours and mine. And sometimes it's no one's fault. Sometimes you are saying one thing and you intended it to be good and helpful, but they hear something else and they're triggered, but they reply trying to be helpful in a way that triggers you. And so that's sometimes how the crazy cycle goes. See, sometimes what we don't realize is that even healthy people with helpful intent can say hurtful things. That's why we need to learn how to speak in a way that meets the needs of others, that benefits those who listen. And so how do we do that? Without it getting overly complicated? Well, that's what we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. And what you're going to see is the role that your temperament plays in how you say and hear the things that you say and hear. And if you're wondering, like, what's temperament? It's your default setting. It oftentimes gets confused with personality. Your temperament, though, is the way that you're wired, the way that you are naturally wired. Your personality is the way that you express yourself. And it is oftentimes shaped by your birth order, by the family environment, by your upbringing, by key experiences that you have in your life. It can change or nuance over time, but your temperament is your native language. It's your default settings. If you have parents of young kids, you can see the temperament of your kids within like 9 months, within a year, their tendency, right? It's like eye color. It's like thumbprint. It's you. And in many ways, not always, in many ways, it is how God naturally wired you. Psalm 139 talks about this. The psalmist is writing a song or a prayer back to God, and he says, you, God, made all of the delicate inner parts of my body, and you knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. I mean, this is just a snapshot of the overall psalm. Think about what these verses are revealing. The first thing I don't want you to miss is that God made you. And it doesn't mean he literally knit you together himself. He's using a bit of hyperbole here, or like a metaphor, to show that God was intimately involved in you being here. Let me put it this way. Your life was not your idea. It was God's. God thought that you should be here, which means you're not a mistake. God also made you wonderfully complex. I love that phrase. It means you are one of a kind. There is no one else with your precise, nuanced temperament. That is your temperament, your wiring. And notice what he says about this. Thank you, God, for making me so wonderfully complex. When was the last time you thanked God for how he wired you? See, sometimes when we talk about like this temperament, this wiring stuff, it's like, oh, that's all, like, that's not. It is critical for you honoring how God has wired you. Like, it is so important. If you can't acknowledge God's workmanship in your life, you will struggle to connect with him. And let's be honest, most of us don't thank God for the way that we're wired because we don't like it. We wish we were different. And so you minimize the unique expression that God put on your life. Today is an invitation to stop that. The other truth is, if we don't acknowledge his workmanship in us and honor that, then we probably won't acknowledge it and honor it in others, which will make it difficult for us to connect with them. That's why this is so important. I mean, I love how the psalmist says, your workmanship is marvelous. Look, how well I know it. This psalmist took time to know how God had wired him. I think you should do the same. Because God is the one who made you. He's the one who gave you your temperament. Now, here's the thing. That does not mean everything about you is the way that God intended. That does not mean everything that comes naturally to you was put there by God himself. Your temperament, yes, but our world has been impacted by sin. And so as a result, we have imperfect bodies that are impacted by disease and sickness and other illnesses and limitations that God did not originally intend. And on top of that, your heart and my heart has been corrupted by that same sin. And so as a result, we tend to do things out of selfishness and pride, and sometimes out of bitterness and jealousy and hurt that is not what God intended, if we don't allow him to transform the way that we think. But this verse reminds us that your temperament has been put there by God. He knows how you work best. With God, you are a masterpiece in the making. And so as you trust him, you're going to grow into the best version of you that God can possibly make you. And your temperament is a key part of that. It's the part of you that is uniquely you. And you could choose to see it and celebrate it and thank God for it, or you can try to mask it, you can try to ignore it, but make no mistake, it's you. And here's why this is so important when it comes to your words. What you may not realize is your temperament influences the words that you choose to use. And the temperament of the person next to you influences the words that they choose to use. Your temperament also influences the way you hear the words others choose to use with you. And so the more we can pay attention to our temperament versus other people's temperament, is we gotta realize that that kind of is a filter that influences what we say and how we say it and how we hear what others say to us and our reactivity to that. If we're gonna choose healthful and helpful words, we have to understand how God wired us. And we have to pay attention to how God wired them, whoever they is for you. So if you're wondering, like, well, how do we begin to understand our temperaments? There are probably a lot of tools out there, but we're going to use a tool and a framework that I think will help give you some clarity. It's based on some of the earliest framework that dates back to a guy by the name of Hippocrates. It's where the medical community gets the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. About 2,500 years ago, Hippocrates developed a theory that has further been clarified over the years that explains or helps explain why certain people do the things that they do. And he originally coined 4 Greek words that are a mouthful. You have sanguines, you have cholerics, you have phlegmatics, and you have melancholics. Yeah, those are big words. I'm a simple man, so we choose to use colors instead. Sanguines are yellow, cholerics are red, phlegmatics are green, and melancholics are blue. Let's see if we're going to look at the terms quickly here, and maybe you can identify one that you think is more like you than the other. Sanguines, we'll start there. Sanguines, yellows, speak the language of people and fun. They say things like, "Oh, exciting, that sounds fun. Come join in. Who's going to be there?" Sanguines also can get easily distracted. "Ooh, I forgot." If that sounds like you, maybe you're a yellow. Maybe you're a red. The cholerics speak the language of power and control. They're usually a little direct. "I'll do it. Hurry up. Let's go. Follow my lead. We're going this way." If that sounds like you, you may be a red. The greens, the phlegmatics, speak the language of calm and harmony. No big deal. I'm good with whatever. And sometimes they procrastinate. I mean, are we in a big rush? We can wait until tomorrow. You're the greens. Melancholics are blue. They speak the language of perfection and order. I've been giving it some thought. I don't know that I trust him or her. Are you sure that that's safe? Are you sure that we have everything that we need? If that sounds like you might be a blue. So take a moment with that in mind and consider what color you might be, okay? I didn't say tell your neighbor what color they are, okay? I said, you think about yourself. You may have an idea of what color you are. What I want you to be careful of is sometimes we don't actually like the way that God wired us. And we're drawn to what we think we should be, what color we hope that we are. And that's not your natural temperament. That's a mistake that many people make, is they look at one of these types of people as better or more desirable than others. So to help you sort some of that out and to help you begin to see how your temperament influences how you speak, we have an assessment that's meant to help clarify that. And here's the thing, based on your temperament, it's going to shape your excitement or your resistance to this assessment. I mean, for some of you reds, you're like, nope, I don't need anybody else telling me what to do. I know exactly who I am. Some of your greens are like, I'm interested, but I don't know that I really want to take time to do that. The yellows, on the other hand, are like, if it gives me something to talk about with my friends, this sounds fun. And the blues are a little skeptical. Can we really trust this assessment? Do you know the research that's went into this to make sure that it's a valid project, right? So again, set some of your temperaments aside. This will be helpful. It's been helpful for people before, and it'll give us a common language. I would encourage you to wear your color next weekend. We'll have a little fun with that. But here's what you're going to get when you take the assessment. You're going to get a score. You're going to have probably one primary color, maybe a secondary color. And then, as you can see with my score, I have 0 green, which was the color of calm and harmony. And when my team saw this, they were like, that explains a lot, Ben. Thank you, okay? I'll talk more about your score and mine next week. You're also going to get a list of communication strengths and weaknesses and ways that you can put this into practice. Now, some of this is going to be intuitive to you. Some of these things you've worked on. Not everything in this assessment is going to identify you perfectly, but we're going to talk about this over the next few weeks. And so I would encourage you to take the assessment. If you want to take this with you to work and use it as an invite opportunity for your coworkers to come and engage in church next weekend, I would encourage you to pass the assessment along to them. Normally, this assessment costs like $25 or $30, and we were able to negotiate a $7 rate. It's still free for you. We're investing in you and your life. It's free, I think, until at least tonight, maybe a little later in the week, but I would encourage you to take it now. And if you want to pay it forward, there's a little link on the app where you can invest $7 to help us keep giving these assessments away. The goal is to help you grow spiritually and relationally through this. It's to help you live out the truth of this passage, to not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but learn through your temperament how to speak what is helpful for building others up according to their needs/temperament, that it may benefit all who listen. Because the clearer you see your temperament, the words that you choose to use, the more you will see the impact they have, not just on you, but on those around you.
Ben, you forgot to bring the trash can up again.
Oh, sorry. I was just
I don't see why it's so hard for you to remember. You have to bring it up every single Tuesday. What, did you walk right past it? Come on, you don't even have that many. What is this?
I was just drawing something.
Well, clean it up.
I will.
No, don't just say you're gonna clean it up. Do it.
Let me just finish. Just finish. Wait, that's my color.
You can draw when you're finished with your chores. Right now it's not time to play, it's time to work. Do what I asked you to do first. Come on, listen. There's no need to cry. All right, there's just a right way to do things. And do you want to do things your way, or do you want to do things the right way?
The right way, I guess.
All right. Now get this cleaned up. Now.
Hey, are you all done? What's wrong? Did he show you the comic book he was making you for your birthday? I think it was supposed to be a surprise.
Well, he knows he's supposed to do his chores first.
Oh, Dad, do you want to play my game?
I just have so much work to do right now, bud. I just really don't have time to play chess, okay?
It will only take 5 minutes, come on.
I know chess. A good game can go on for hours.
No, it's not chess. I completely I completely made up my own rules. Come on.
Why would you want to make up your own rules? I mean, chess is a great game. Look, the instructions are right here. Just look at that. Get you there.
No, but Dad, I made up the entire game from scratch. Just let me show you how to play, okay?
Look, chess has been around for 1,000 years, okay? Now there's a strategy and order. Changing the rules defeats the whole purpose of the game. Look, I'm gonna show you how to play really quickly, but then I have to work, okay? All right, first of all, you'll need
Wait,
these.
what are you doing with those? No, don't throw them away.
It's just a bunch of paper, bud. You need to learn how to play the real game.
No, and those? Are you kidding me?
Let's see, these aren't set up right.
And I worked on those. And that was so hard.
Look, this is a rook, okay? It moves forward or backward, never diagonal. Are you listening?
This isn't. This isn't very fun.
Well, we haven't even started yet.
I know, it's just that regular chess, it's so boring, and I liked my way better, okay?
Well, you can't just make up your own rules. I mean, there's just a right way to do things in a right order. Now, do you want to do things your way or the right way?
The right way, I guess. You know, my way seems pretty right to me.
All right, now this is called a knight. Now, with
Grab your stuff. We don't want to be late.
what, you're leaving already?
Yeah, I've got to go to summer camp. We've got an hour's drive ahead of us.
How many times did you get to play his game? Isn't it so much fun? He's been working all day on it. Okay, say goodbye.
Bye, bud.
If you're like me, that video has some impact. It reminds me of words that have been said to me, and it also reminds me of words that have been said by me to my kids, to my friends and coworkers, to my wife. You and I, we choose the words that we use. And Jesus said that we will give an account for every idle word that we speak. The good news is he doesn't just leave us alone to figure this out by ourselves or on our own. Remember, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and his Word gives life and light to everything. So we're gonna let God's word in us change us and bring some life and light to the words that we use. He wants to do the heart work so that we can choose healthful and helpful words, reflecting his grace and his love to the world around us. So I would invite you, wherever you're watching today, to take a moment and just think, God, what are you saying to me today? What step do you have for me to take? And think to yourself, what are you going to do about it? Because our hope is that you would be responsive to God in your life, that you would follow wherever he's inviting you to go on this life-changing adventure. Our hope and prayer is that you would begin thinking about the words that you're using and choose helpful and healthful words. So would you make that your prayer with me right now? God, thank you so much that in the midst of our mess, you stepped into our world to bring your word, your life, your light to transform us. And so today, shine a little light on the steps that you're inviting each of us individually to take. And give us the courage and your power and strength to follow through. Open up our eyes to the ways that we can change the words that we're using to bring more help and health into our relationships. Can't wait to see what you're going to do in us and through us in the weeks ahead. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks. If you're sitting here today at one of our physical locations and you feel like God's doing some work in your life, I want you to know all of our response areas are open. And so you're welcome to surrender something at the cross or take communion. Our prayer team is available to pray with you. My encouragement to all of you is that you would take the assessment, invite others, bring it back next week. If this message was meaningful for you, share it on YouTube and share it with your friends to invite them to go on the journey with you. We have I Said This, You Heard That groups available at all of our campuses if that's a step that you want to take. But I hope you come back next week because we're going to talk about, or we're going to try to equip you on how to win with your words based on your temperament and theirs. And so thanks for being here today. We'll see you next week.